Launch control, this is Houston. We are go for launch.
Hold on to your lug nuts. It's time for an overhaul.
Turn it up, son.
I'm your huckleberry.
I don't give jobs, I hire men. You won't give me anything, and I won't give you anything.
Collision, sir.
Whoa, relax. We're not even moving.
There's no crying in baseball.
We are News New Mexico. It's Tuesday, January 24th, 2012. Happy Chinese New Year to you. I'm Michael Swickard. We have in studio Aaron Henry Diaz. Our newsnm.com is the website. If you want to go there, you can follow along stories we've posted, podcast streaming, and you can send stuff to us off our feedback links. Jerry Harden is our producer-director, and he's kind of the guy that holds all this stuff together, but you don't hear his voice a whole lot. We may get his voice on a little more. And we are really happy on the Newsmaker line. We have Marita Noon. Energy makes America great. Org. This is what she always says. That's the only interview she ever does. The first thing she ever says is, org.
Well, that is true. You're special.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of Mork and Mindy, doesn't it?
Now, there's something I haven't thought of in a long time.
Org, yes. Isn't there something that nano, and all that other stuff? Jerry, you know what I'm saying.
He was Mork from Ork. That was the planet he was from.
There you go, Mork from Ork.
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
I'm lost.
All right, this Aaron. We're sorry. Aaron is our designated person that's a little bit younger than us old geezers, and so we just run that right by him. So Marita Noon, let me ask you something. We have a story. Wells Fargo completes equity financing for a 53-megawatt solar project in New Mexico. You deal with energy projects all the time. Someone was talking about that at coffee yesterday, and I said, 53 megawatts. That's the most it could do. It's really going to do 5 or 6 megawatts, dependably. And what is the need of New Mexico? It's like 2,400 megawatts. 6 megawatts into a field that needs 2,400. That's not very much, is it?
No, it certainly is not very much, and it's a large sum of money that we're plunking down to produce energy that is intermittent and unreliable and not available on demand.
Yeah, it's not available on demand, and that's the number one. So if you have a 53...
Plus, it's a lot of land use.
And it's a lot of land use, which we got plenty of land, I'm here to tell you.
Well, that is true. We have no shortage of that in New Mexico.
We don't. It may bother people looking out the window of their cabin as they fly over. They may say, I think there's something human down there. I don't like that. I think they should just have brush and wolves and sagebrush and stuff. But regardless, what I'm trying to say is... And all right, let's say you do 20% of what you're rated, but my buddy Paul says that rarely on these projects of wind and solar do you get more than about 10 to 20% as a consistent amount. You don't. 53 is...
Those are the numbers they talk about.
The 53 is if you had perfect sunlight at exactly noon on a day, a very clear day, and there were no clouds, you might get as much as 53, but you don't do that. That doesn't happen. They have the records on all these other sites for wind and solar. So, you get between 10 and 20% pretty consistently at the time the sun shines or the wind blows. But we need 2,400.
We have a lot of both in New Mexico. We do have a lot of sun and we do have a lot of wind. So both of those are seem like they should be viable resources for us.
But it's like a rounding error to the 2,400 megawatts we need. It's a rounding error. You lose more than that with traffic lights. Yeah, I don't know how to describe that. They've just spent all this money, and they haven't actually addressed the problem that out of the 2,400 megawatts we need, and we need them 24 hours a day, when you lose a third of them, what happens? It gets cold. It gets dark. Things thaw out.
It's snowing like a blizzard right now at my house.
Oh, okay.
I was up in Santa Fe a few weeks ago at a friend's home when it was snowing like a blizzard that day, and we were talking about heat and solar because this friend's home that I was at has solar water heating. He's got solar panels on his roof to heat the water. And And he was commenting on how nice and warm it was on the floor because of the radiant heat, which the warm water heats and so forth. But I said, well, didn't you, a couple weeks ago, didn't you tell me you had guests and you had no hot water? How would you have no hot water? Because don't you have solar, water heating? And he said, yes, but I ran out of propane. I'm like, yeah, but you've got solar. He goes, yeah, but look outside right now. There's no sun. You need the propane to heat it.
No
and,
kidding.
it was being there myself and experiencing that was just somehow kind of an eye-opening thing for me to realize that, he had no heat, the house was freezing, he had guests, and there was no hot water to shower with because he was out of propane, even though he's got solar water heaters.
Yeah, and I do like radiant heat in the floor if you live anywhere near that. That is, I've lived once that way, and I do like it a lot. Yeah,
but that's kind of pricey. I have it, and it's
it's
I
a little
need the house
pricey,
to about 58 degrees, and that's it.
I also have an editorial from the Santa Fe New Mexican. We'll get to your column pretty quickly here, but I want to do this one.
Don't worry.
All right, editorial from the Santa Fe New Mexican. The notion that Santa Fe, the city, county together, should explore the ownership of an independent municipal power utility is intriguing. That's what they're thinking. They think they want to own their own power utility so they can get away from coal. What would you tell them with what you know?
Well, it's a good thing there's a lot of rich people in Santa Fe. That's what I would tell them. But those poor people that they raise the minimum wage for so that they could have a living wage, as they called it, they're going to be in big trouble because if their goal is to get away from coal, they're going to be looking at more expensive energy, although natural gas is lower priced right now. But I would assume that you've obviously read the article, which I have not read. Are they looking at trying to do wind and solar?
Oh, yeah.
They want an alternative.
With natural gas backup?
Alternative.
That's right.
And let's look, what happens to their pocketbook? They have an alternative pocketbook, don't they?
Yeah, well, a lot of them in Santa Fe do, but, there's a whole lot of people up there as well who don't. They've tried to put in some wind turbines up there in the past, and people don't like it.
Oh, yeah, it makes noise, kills the birds.
Ruining the viewscape.
Yeah, ruins the views, kills eagles, and costs a lot more money, 6 times as much. We'll have more with Marita Noon.
I don't really recall. Starts with an S. So swummy, slippy, slappy, Swanson?
Maybe it's on the briefcase. Look on the...
Oh, yeah, it's right here. Samsonite. It's way off.
That's her name, Samsonite. Marita Noon. We like to have a lot of intelligence when we talk to you. Marita Noon, EnergyMakesAmericaGreat.org. And so we always bring Jim Carrey on, to help you along there. Marita,
yeah, I appreciate it. It's kind of scary.
Yeah, Marita writes a lot of interesting stuff. Your column, I believe, you write about that President Barack Obama kills the Keystone Project while defending an energy record. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, last week, on January 18th, President Obama came out really ahead of schedule because the payroll tax extension deal that he made with the Republicans in the House was that they would pass the 2-month payroll tax extension, but he had to make a decision on Keystone Pipeline within 60 days, within that 2-month extension time frame. And so his deadline for that was February 21st, if I recall correctly. And on January 18th, a month ahead of time, he came out and said, nope, we're not doing Keystone. And that was, it was quite surprising, although some people will say, of course, he was never going to approve it, and other people felt that, he was kind of backed into a corner, and with the unions and the jobs and so forth, they felt like he would have to do it. But at least now we've got a decision out of him. But then the next day, out comes his first campaign ad of the 2012 election cycle, and in the ad, he touts his energy record and talks about all the green energy jobs, 2.7 million green energy jobs. Now, of course, in his campaign, he promised 5 million green energy jobs, but he touts the 2.7 million number. And then he also, on the same ad, brags about that for the first time in 13 years, America is importing less than 50% of our oil. So those sound like, wow, what a great energy president we've got. He's really doing a great job until you really look at the numbers and look beyond just what the ad actually says and look at what's really going on, and you see that he's no friend of energy of any kind.
Well, if you notice that at the height of the schools in New Mexico having all sorts of problems, Bill Richardson was chosen as the energy governor and won a great award as being the, not energy, I mean education governor. So it's the same thing. It's just politicians. But maybe there is two Barack Obamas. There's the bad Barack Obama and the good Barack Obama. And the ad was for the good Barack Obama, who really cares about Americans and really cares about energy.
Now,
that's a nice optimistic viewpoint.
Marita, now, isn't oil production down because of our bad economy?
Well, oil production is actually not down, but oil use
is down because of the economy, not necessarily because of Obama initiatives.
That is fact.
But of course, what is oil selling for right now? I have it on good authority that last month oil sold for $89 and change per barrel of oil that was produced in New Mexico. I have that on very good authority because I saw the check. And so, my family is involved with it. And so, that is a lot of money. Rather than have the Keystone Pipeline, everybody tells me I'm crazy with this question. Why don't we just increase our production enough that we don't need that oil from Canada?
Well, one of the things that few people realize is that pipeline is not only going to bring, assuming it gets built, which may take a new president to do, but it will bring U.S. production from North Dakota as well.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We got production up there. We could actually send that. Let's build that pipeline regardless. Talking with the Marita Noon. Energy makes America great.
Excuse me, darling. What is it exactly that you do?
Yeah, Marita Noon. EnergyMakesAmericaGreat.org. We are News New Mexico for Tuesday, January 24th. I'm Michael Swickard. We have Aaron Henry Diaz here. So, Marita Noon, what is it exactly that you do?
What is exactly that I do? I try to work for citizens' rights to have energy that is abundant, available, and affordable.
All right. And if you had to put that in order of importance, so is it available is number one, abundant is number two, and affordable is number three? How do you rate those three?
Well, I would say affordable's got to be on the front end.
Oh, really? Because, at one time they had all these gas stations, and they had pretty good prices, except they didn't have any gas.
Well, it's got to be on the front end, though, because if you have a bunch of it but nobody can afford it, that doesn't help either.
Boy, that's tough.
It is tough. That's a tough equation to figure out.
But I think, as much as people carp about it, they would pay $5 a gallon rather than try to, by hand, push their car down the road. Well,
some might ride a bicycle if that was a feasible option for them. But, one of the things, I was speaking up at the Roundhouse at the opening day of the legislature last week, and I was up there Tuesday morning speaking for the Tea Party, and there were some protesters there, some Occupy Wall Street types were there. And when I was done speaking, a guy came up to me and kind of attacked me about, look at the sun, we've got energy there. Why do you only talk about energy out of the ground and so forth? And, we had this abundant, affordable, available kind of discussion. And he said, well, I live off the grid. And, he's kind of piously telling me this. And I took his shoulders and shook him. And I said to him, that is the great thing about America, is if you want to live off the grid, you can. But if I don't want to, I don't have to. And we are so rich with natural resources in America that if he wants to choose to, have solar panels or a wind turbine at his house, then that's his freedom and his choice to do so as long as I'm not subsidizing it.
Well, exactly.
And if I choose to have heat on demand while it's snowing as it is outside at my house, then that's the great thing about America, is that we have that freedom of choice currently. Anyway.
And most Americans would make affordability their number one thing. And that's why regular working Americans are having a hard time adapting to the government's, alternative energy theories.
Yeah, and the mandates that they've placed on us, and there's an article in Science magazine currently that talks about the 80% carbon-free policy that California has put into place, and how they're waking up and realizing that they can't meet that. And these legislators think that they can come up with this pious solution and put it into law, just like President Obama has decreed that CAFE standards are going to be 50 miles a gallon average per fleet. Just because they put it into law, the technology isn't there yet. They're not commercially viable. Yes, we can produce oil from algae in a science experiment. Yes, we can produce energy from electricity from wind and solar, but it's not economically feasible at this point. And but that's what we're facing.
Marita Noon, EnergyMakesAmericaGreat.org is the website. Go check that out. Marita, we appreciate everything you do. Thank you so much.
It's always a treat to talk to you every Tuesday morning. I appreciate it.
I really enjoy it. Stay warm today now.
I will, thanks.
It'll take some energy to do it, but luckily we have some energy.